Hi, Gary. I'll try. Could you like to go for a record? Okay. Something. Okay. Check 1, 2. Test, test. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the monthly meeting of the City of Des Moines Zoning Board of Adjustment. This board has the power under Iowa law and the zoning ordinance of the City of Des Moines to hear and make decisions on requests for variance and exceptions from the regulations in the zoning ordinance, to review conditional use requests, and to consider any appeals from the decision of city staff in the administration of the zoning ordinance. The members of this board are citizens of the City of Des Moines. They have been appointed to this board by the City Council. The board members are volunteers, and they receive no compensation for their public service. I'm going to take a minute here to introduce our board members. On the audience's left is Heather Ann Rowe. Next to her is Kuku Sa. Next to him is Marlis Jones. On the audience's far right is Tom DeCio. Next to him is Dave Gare, and then Rhonda Cedillo. I'm Mel Pins, the board chair. I'll introduce our city staff that may be assisting us today. To my left is the board's legal counsel, Gary Guidelock. Down here to the audience's left, on the side seats, Frank Dunn-Young, senior city planner, Bert Dross, deputy planning administrator, and Chris Hilescove, zoning enforcement officer. I'll cover the meeting's procedure here. For some of you, it's maybe your first time, hopefully your only time in front of us. But I'll go through this briefly. We'll help you through the hearing. You don't have to worry about memorizing the procedure. But to give you an idea of how this works, first and foremost, the Zoning Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial board. This hearing will be conducted within the procedures and format as authorized by Iowa law and this city's ordinances. This meeting is open to the public. The meeting is being recorded by both audio and video for a legal record of these proceedings. The board members have each received a copy of the agenda and the staff recommendations. And if you don't yet have a copy of the agenda and staff recommendations, they're in the black trays here, right by the door as you walked in the room. Feel free to grab one. The board is required to base its decision on each item only upon the criteria established by law for the type of relief sought by the applicant. The law applicable to each case has been identified in the written staff report. If the facts as determined by this board demonstrates that the criteria established by law for granting the relief have been satisfied, then the board must grant the relief. Otherwise, the board must deny the requested relief. Each item will be announced in the order that it appears on the agenda. Items that are listed on the consent portion of the agenda, which is our first section of the agenda, are not planned to be individually discussed. Rather, they will be considered for approval in accordance with the recommendation in the staff report, unless the appellant does not agree to the conditions that have been recommended by staff, or if there is an individual of the audience or a member of the board that requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda so that a full discussion on the matter can occur before a decision is made. For our regular portion of the agenda, after an item is announced, city staff will first give a brief overview of the appeal, and they'll present any written comments that have been received prior to the hearing. Then the applicant or their representative will be allowed up to 10 minutes to present their appeal. We'll then move to the public comment portion of the hearing for that agenda item. Anybody that wishes to speak in support of, in opposition to, or even in neutrality of the requested appeal will be allowed up to 5 minutes each to provide their comments. This will be their one and only opportunity to address the board regarding the item at hand. Once all concerned citizens have spoken on the item, the board will then ask any additional questions of city staff. Lastly, the applicant will be given 3 more minutes for a rebuttal or other closing comments if they so choose. All speakers must speak only from the podium here at the center of the room. You must give your presentation first by giving your complete name and address of business or residence as appropriate in the event that you may need to be contacted for a legal notice related to the outcome of this appeal. All speakers are requested to remain courteous and to focus their comments only upon those facts that demonstrate whether or not the criteria established by law have been satisfied. Speakers are also asked to be respectful of time considerations, and if necessary, the board chair will limit further comments by a speaker if they exceed their time limitation. After all the comments have been received, the board chair will then close any further public comment on the agenda item, and the board will immediately deliberate the request, and we will make a decision here today on the appeal. Please note that it always takes at least 4 affirmative votes for any zoning appeal to gain approval. If your appeal is approved today, we ask that you wait until at least 1 week from today's hearing if you need to contact the city's Permit and Development Center to obtain any necessary building or sign permits that are related to your appeal. This will allow the decision of the board to be documented in the form of a decision in order. That document will be provided to you and city staff for the record. Any appeal that is approved by this board must be implemented, constructed, or otherwise utilized within 2 years of the date of the board's decision, or such approval shall expire. Finally, the decisions of this board can only be appealed in the Iowa District Court. So if you believe you've been harmed by an error made by this board, your only remedy is to seek relief through the court within 30 days of the filing of the board's decision in order. If you believe the zoning regulations applied by this board are wrong, you may petition the City Council to change those regulations for future considerations. Any material written or otherwise used today as part of any presentation is part of the permanent record. So if there's anything you want to present today, either pictures, drawings, or documents, you can do that, but you'll need to give copies to city staff for the record. If you'd like copies of anything presented today, just ask city staff after the hearing and they'll help get you copies. Just a few housekeeping items. We'd ask that you avoid any undue conversation in the audience. Please ensure your cell phone's been silenced. And if you need to use a restroom, you don't have to go back downstairs. Just walk past the staircase. There's restrooms on your left by the elevator. I don't think we'll need a 5-minute break in the hearing around 3 o'clock, but if so, we'll take one. So that's our background information. As I mentioned earlier, our first part of the agenda is what we call the consent portion of the agenda. Basically, staff has recommended approving the item on the consent agenda. This one is conditional use related to the DMAC urban campus in the vicinity of 1100 7th Street. Staff is recommending conditional use approval for seasonal and special events, subject to some staff conditions. Before we consider just approving that, would there be anybody in the audience that would be opposed to this board granting the requested conditional use in item 1? Seeing no hands, anybody on the board with any concerns or questions? If there is none, would there be a motion to approve item 1, conditional use at 1100 7th Street? Motion by Marlis, second by Rhonda. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, motion carries 7-0. So, if you were here for item 1, you're good to go. Staff will get you a copy of that approval about a week from today, hopefully at about the latest. Thank you. Okay, this will bring us to our regular portion of the hearing, where we'll have staff give a brief presentation and then hear from the applicant or any comments. It relates to a conditional use request at 3420 Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Item 2 is located at 3420 Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway. It pertains to 2 tenant bays. Tenant Bay 3424 Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and 3426 Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway. Those are the 2 tenant bays that the applicant is looking to have the liquor store be on. So the proposal is expansion of the existing 2,200 square foot liquor store use with sales of alcoholic liquor, wine, and or beer for off-premises consumption and tobacco products within those tenant bays. They are looking to include an additional 1,800 square foot area within the adjoining tenant bay. This requires them to seek the appeal to amend their conditional use as granted on April 28, 2021. And there's the docket number. At that time, same use, a liquor store use selling alcoholic liquor, wine, and beer for off-premises consumption. So the premises is located at the Harding Hills, right there off of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway, and then what would be south of that Douglas Euclid intersection there to the north. I'm going to go ahead and this kind of shows the premises outlined in yellow, and then I've got some other aerials that I would like to show you. This is more of a close-up of the property, and the tenant bays are located right in this area. And this is the front of the store. I took this photo recently, and so that is the existing liquor store. Now this is the tenant bay that they are looking to move in. Let me bump this out a touch. Looking at moving in. And so I took this picture, and then I pulled a photo off of Google Maps. I want you to be able to see the placement of these two tenant bays. There was a car parked there, so I wasn't able to get a straight shot that would have made it visible, so I wanted you to see this. So the appellant would have approximately 4,000 square feet of area. This is their intended layout for the liquor store. Parking lot here to the top of the page, enter and exit, and then they have their typical items in the store with the counter space over here to the left. And so the applicant is proposing to operate between the hours of 9 a.m. and 12 a.m. each day of the week. Liquor stores are allowed in a MX3 district subject to being granted a conditional use. In order for them to be granted the conditional use, they have to demonstrate they've met all criteria, including separation distances from public parks, churches, daycare, places of worship, similar uses, and separation from fuel stations, other liquor stores, tobacco outlets as well, and they are meeting each of the separation distances. The area that they are in is in a what we would call a commercial node, so it's intended for a mix of housing, retail, offices, uses serving a larger population and geographical area. So this is a use that staff does believe is suitable for the area. Now, when staff gets an application, we will send out notice to the neighborhood association. We did send out notices to the Prospect Park Neighborhood Association on February 7th. And so, as I mentioned before, we had approved the zoning history for this. We had approved a conditional use in 2021, subject to conditions. We're looking to have similar conditions as well. So staff is recommending approval of the applicant's request for a conditional use subject to criteria. We believe they've satisfied all of our conditions. Here are the conditions that are they satisfied all the criteria. Here are the conditions that we are proposing for you to review. And I can zoom in on that a little bit so it's easier to see. And these conditions are very similar to what they originally were granted approval of. I believe we modified the time slightly by 1 hour, if I'm remembering that correctly. We did send out comment cards to properties within 250 feet. We did receive comment back from 2 property owners. So you can see one right here, there to the north, and then one more in the residential district there to the west. And the comment card on the west, I'm not sure if they are in opposition or are in support of the project. They wrote, "I oppose the request." However, the comments say "not concerned." And then here is the other property owner that made comment. And then the applicant did send out a notice for a public meeting. However, he indicated that no one showed up to the meeting. So we don't have any additional comments to share there. What questions do you have for staff?
Questions for Frank? Anybody? 2 very brief ones, Frank. Do you have any police report showing any excessive frequency of any police issues that are specifically related to this existing conditional use, the business itself?
I'll share the, I've pulled up the police reports. I'm not an expert when it comes to the police reports, but
Sure,
what I've gleaned is that I can't say that any of them are specific to that tenant bay.
And I don't know off my own knowledge either, but 3420 Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway, is that the entire plaza? Is that like Hy-Vee's general address as well, or
No,
is that?
I'd have to, I'm not certain.
Because sometimes the police department, they'll, tag the closest node or the closest, business, whether it's related to the issue at hand or not.
Right,
I just
right.
can't tell from this if Hy-Vee has a separate address.
I'm not sure, and I'll scroll back up. Let me scroll through this. I might have a drawing that.
I see a vehicle hit by a grocery cart. I would assume that's probably
Right.
more related to a grocery store. But, yeah. And I know it's a big parking lot, but at least to the best of your knowledge as staff, there's nothing that stands out that this operator or the specific conditional use has been any problem.
There wasn't anything that I could see
Okay.
that showed that there was a pattern.
And I see in item 5, you've given them some advisement and direction on the windows and what can be displayed and how. You may also want to give them a reminder if they're changing the signage, what allowances they have on the facade of the building. I'm assuming one's going to go down. Maybe they might want to put up a bigger sign or.
Certainly.
Yeah.
They will certainly need to work with a licensed sign contractor with the city of Des Moines and
Cool.
apply for permits on that. And they are granted signage based upon the length of their frontage, so they could make that a little bit more sizable.
Certainly. Cool. All right. Well, that's all I had. I don't see anybody else. So, all right. So at this stage of the game, Chris, yeah, is there something you'd like to add?
Chris Elsko, Zoning Enforcement Officer. I just would draw attention to that condition number 5. I did have an opportunity to go and assist field staff with an inspection of this particular liquor license recently. They were in excess of the window coverage, but they immediately took it down and did comply. But I just wanted to make sure the applicant was aware of that condition.
Yeah.
Maybe a little different than how they have been operating. So
Yeah,
just
that's
context for the board.
appreciate you doing that. It's a good reminder. If they're going to be expanding the frontage there, it's probably a good way for them to see how they're going to make everything work, especially with 2 doors. Okay. All right. So the way this works, applicant, you can come up. And we'd just like to have your full name, address on the record, and then as you complete your remarks, if you'd write your name and address down on our sign-in sheet there. Yep, that'd be great.
Here?
Yeah, but you can do that when you're done with your remarks. But just tell us who you are and tell us about your project.
All right, my name is Mayor. I've been in the business for, I started back in 2016. I used to own a store by, own a store by university. And this is my second time being in here. I got denied back in 2016. Then finally I closed down that one. Then I got opportunity on the Harding Hill Shopping Center. Then 2021 I got granted for the liquor, and I'm kind of happy for the city of Des Moines for granting me that, and I appreciate that, and I'll take the matter in my hand to do my best to run the business as they require for the city and for the community.
Okay.
Yeah, and also number 5.
Yep.
Right here. So any visible sign, I will take care of situation, or anything will block the view. So I will take care of that.
Yeah, and staff can help you with that, no Coors Silver Bullet train pictures and stuff, probably.
Okay.
So have you gotten along well with your neighbors in the plaza there, and everything seems to be working okay?
Yes. So far, there's no any complaint, no any issue with the neighbors. So I'm doing my best. I know there's looting out there, but I always do my best. I hire evening time. There's security guard. What they call, tell about your move.
And I trust you're expanding because business has been good?
Yes, so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, board members, any questions for Mayor?
I have just a quick.
Yes, Marlis.
So we talked about item number 5 on this list of the recommended, and you're okay with all the rest
Yes.
of the items? Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Good item to note. Any other questions? Okay. And again, appreciate you coming down. If you just sign your name and address there on the sheet, you can sit down. We'll check back with you in a few minutes.
Thank you.
With our big audience here, I don't know if there's anybody speaking support, aside from the applicant. Yeah. Anybody in opposition, even in neutrality? Seeing none. Any further questions for staff? Zoning enforcement officer, anything you want to add? Okay. Then I think we'll just go ahead and close the public portion, go to board deliberation. Thoughts from the members?
It pretty much seems to be in order. And those items. Okay.
All right. So granting the conditional use would be in the spirit with the intent of the ordinance, not going to cause any undue congestion, noise. It's not outside the character. Seems like everything's been going okay.
Right.
Okay. All right. So Marlis, that's your motion?
That's my motion.
Rhonda's going to second that. All those in favor of granting the requested amendment to the conditional use, subject to the conditions as presented in 1 through 14, raise your right hand, say aye. Okay, motion carries 7-0. All right, you'll get a copy of that next week, and then if you want to change some signage around, work with the permit staff. If you need to change your signage above, or you want to move it over, and all should be good.
All right, thank you.
All right, and go Cyclones. Yeah.
The question is, did this beat Dave's record?
Well, we're at 25 minutes, including the opening preamble. Let's go over any other business. I think we would just have minutes from last month. So if you were here last month, any changes? If none, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Motion Rhonda, second Marlis.
Yeah.
I don't know who gets it first, but since we've had a theme going. We'll do Rhonda and Marlis on motions. All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. All right, motion carries. Tom, were you here last month? Yeah, all right. So that's 7-0 on the minutes. We're all good. Seeing no other business, this hearing is adjourned.
I'm glad you did.
Right.